Hello there, you beautiful people, and welcome to this lecture on the difference between objects and classes in object-oriented programming. So in this lecture, I'm going to give you a really intuitive analogy for what a class is and also for what an object is and how the two relate together. Now, this is probably going to give you an excellent conceptual framework moving forward in your programming career, so let's get into it. So first of all, let's talk about classes. Now, seeing as we're making a bank in this section, I'm going to use coins as my example here. Somewhere in a mystical factory, these coins are being produced, right? The coins you and I spend every single day. Now, I'm in the UK, so this factory, inside our factory, there will be a template for a 1p coin, a template for a 10p coin, and a template for a £1 coin, and so on and so forth. Now, each of those templates, in programming speak, is called a class. We use these templates in real life to make physical coins. And likewise in programming, we use a class or a template to get an object. So if you can imagine this template in a factory that repeatedly makes the same coin over and over and over again, that template is a class and the objects that come from it are instances of that class. So every object is just a physical copy, also known as an instance, of a class. If you've managed to understand that, then you've understood the core principle of object-oriented programming. I'll say it again, classes are templates, and when you make an instance of a class, you get an object. Great. Now that we understand what classes are, let's take a closer look at what makes up classes. Classes are simply made up of variables, also known as states, and functions which are known as methods. That's right, we've used the word methods before when talking about string methods, list methods, and things like that. And this is because each variable type in Python is its own unique class. There's a class for strings, a class for lists, and so on. Now, different variable types, as we know, behave differently. And what makes them behave differently, amongst other things, are these states and methods that make up the class. So for example, with a coin states might be its value, its color, the number of edges it's got, might be 1 if it's a circle, its diameter, its thickness, and whether it's heads or not. And that will pretty much define a coin's states. Now, we use class variables to define these states. Class variables are just like normal variables, but we put them inside of a class. Now, a coin can also have several behaviors. For example, you can flip it. For flipping, we would create a function, or more correctly a method, called flip. This method will then change the coin state to be heads or tails randomly. So in this way, by using variables and methods, we can represent the states and behaviors of a real-life coin in a class. Cool, right? Now, I know this is rather theoretical, but I really want you to understand it because it's very important if you're going to do anything with object-oriented programming. So let's just have a quick recap of these concepts just to make sure they've sunk in, okay? First of all, classes are just templates. We instantiate a class to make an object. Another way of saying that is an object is an instance of a class. Another way of saying that is each 50p coin is the result of using a 50p coin class. Okay, that should be pretty clear by now. Now, if you understand that concept, you've gotten the core idea for object-oriented programming. Now, objects in the real world are made up of two things. They have states, and they have behaviors or actions they can do. Now, because classes make objects, classes are made up of states and behaviors as well. To create states, we use class variables, and to create behaviors, we just use methods. And by the way, methods are exactly the same as functions. We just call them methods when we're referring to classes. Okay? So if you're comfortable with all of that, then you're set up perfectly to start working with objects in Python. Well done. Up next, we're going to be using these concepts to create our very own coin class in Python. I'll see you in the next video.